Welcome to today's class. Today we are going to study about the coagulants and anticoagulants, comes under the subject medicinal chemistry second, that is BP 501T, and myself Miss Rituparna Palit. So, we are here to study about the coagulants and anticoagulants. Both these two classes are very important in many types of reactions in our body going on. Coagulation is also very important, at the same time anticoagulation is also very important, but in the respective places where they are needed to be present. So, let us discuss about the coagulation and anticoagulation process. First of all, we are going to discuss about coagulation. So, coagulation is a process it is also called as hemostasis, in which what happens, there is a arrest of blood loss. That means, if anybody got a wound, a fresh wound, there is a flow of blood out of the wound suddenly, and after 2 to 3 minutes what we will see, what we are seeing, that the blood stopped coming out of that wound, that open wound, and some red clots or a thick blood clot is appeared on the very most uppermost surface of the wound, that is on the epidermis of the epidermis layer of the skin. So, what happens here? This process is called as coagulation. To decrease or to stop the blood loss from that wound, this process happens by itself, we need not to do anything. But sometimes what happens, if there is a big wound or there is a operation happened, so post operative procedures or any other procedures where we need to coagulate the blood, so after the wounded, after the misfortunate situation, any accident or anything, we need to stop the blood oozing out of the wound, the coagulants are used. So, hemostasis or blood coagulation, it involves a complex interaction between the injured blood vessels, the platelets and the coagulation factors. There are 13 coagulation factors which plays a very important role in coagulation. So, coagulants are the substances which promote the coagulation and are indicated in hemorrhagic states. So, any state where hemorrhage is happening, hemorrhage means there is a flow of blood outside the body. When there is a flow of blood, or inside the body when some kind of hemorrhage is happening. So, to stop that hemorrhage condition, coagulants are used. If the wound is small, then it will happen by itself by the conjugation of these three things, that is injured blood vessels, the platelets and the coagulation factor. But if there is a need of incorporation of coagulation, then certain agents are used to stop the blood from coming out. So, this is the classification. The most important or the first coagulant, which is vitamin K. It is a natural agent, that is in form of K1, that is from plant. It is fat soluble. The examples are phytonadione and phylloquinone, also called as phytonadione, is also called as phylloquinone. Second is this is natural, whereas this is K3 is synthetic. If it is synthetic, then there is a two types we have seen, that is fat soluble and water soluble. The example for fat soluble is menadione and acetaminadione. And in water soluble we have seen several examples like menadione sodium bisulfate and menadione sodium diphosphate. So, these two examples are from water soluble and from fat soluble, that is menadione and acetaminadione. And there are some other characters also, the miscellaneous class of this classification, that is miscellaneous: fibrinogen, desmopressin, anti-hemophilic factors, adrenochrome, monosemicarbazole, rutin and ethamsilate. So, there are various agents which are also considered in this class, in this coagulation process, in the classification. So, these are the basic classes which are having the category of coagulants. So, let us study about vitamin K, which is the most important and both naturally and synthetically prepared. So, natural is it is a fat soluble, it is a dietary vitamin which is principally required for the synthesis of clotting factor in our body only. Vitamin K, it acts as a cofactor at a late stage in the synthesis by liver of coagulation proteins, prothrombin, factor number 7, 9th and 10th. I told you earlier that there are 13 factors, we will discuss in our later slides the factors also. And in details you will study the factors in pharmacology subjects. Here we will just go through the clotting factors which are responsible. So, vitamin K, as we know, it is a fat soluble vitamin, it is a dietary principle which is required for the synthesis of clotting factors. Vitamin K, it acts as a cofactor at a late stage in the synthesis by liver of coagulation process, prothrombin factors, that is prothrombin and factors 7th, 9th and 10th. Vitamin K, it has a basic naphthoquinone structure. If you see the structure of vitamin K, which is this. So, if you see the structure, vitamin K has a basic naphthoquinone structure with or without a side chain. There can be, there cannot be, it is depending upon the R group, that is if there is, then it will be phytyl and ferryl groups are there, and normally there is a H, that is hydrogen is present in vitamin structure of vitamin K. And vitamin K is used in the process of prophylaxis and in the treatment of bleeding due to deficiency of clotting factor. Some patients, some people are there who are deficient of clotting factor, those are getting treated with externally medicines, externally drugs such as vitamin K, which is given to the patient for clotting their wounds. You have seen many times that a person who got a wound and the blood is not, it is bleeding all the time. So, they have to take a clotting agent to clot the blood, so that there should not be so much of blood loss from the body. Again, some more information about vitamin K, that is synthetic vitamin K. Let us see about it. Vitamin K1, phytonadione or mefentone is the form of vitamin K which are most often used therapeutically. It is safe for used in infants also, pregnant women and patients with G6P deficiency. What is G6P deficiency? It is glucose 6-phosphate deficiency. That is the glucose, that is very important enzyme for glucose metabolism in our body. It helps in conversion of glucose into fructose in our body. So, vitamin K1 is a form of vitamin K, it is a derivative of vitamin K Most often it is used therapeutically, it is very safe in infants, pregnant women and patients with G6P deficiency, and at the same time phytonadione is lipid soluble, as we have already discussed it, that vitamin K is lipid soluble. It has a faster onset than vitamin K3 or vitamin K4. Vitamin K3 is called as menadione and vitamin K4 is called as menadiol sodium diphosphate. So, this is the structure for all three of it. This is vitamin K1. The ring system in the previous slide, the ring system of vitamin K, you can see that it is the same and a little bit different, that is in vitamin K. So, vitamin K1 has the same ring, vitamin K3 also has the same ring and vitamin K4 also has the same ring, only there is a difference with the this part of the ring where it is getting attached with the double bond O, instead of double bond O it is attached with a single bond O, because there are presence of phosphate group here, sodium salt of phosphate groups are here getting attached in vitamin K4. So, vitamin K, K1, K3 and K4 all are responsible for clotting of blood from the wounded place. Now, let us come for anticoagulants. Anticoagulants are just the opposite of coagulants. The importance of anticoagulants in our body is also as same as the coagulants. If there is any clotting happens inside the body at any time, then anticoagulants are being given to the patient for the breakage of that coagulation. So, there are certain conditions in our body when the patient is having or there is a preparations of continuous preparation of having coagulation in the various organs or in the blood vessels, which is very harmful, very dangerous, life threatening condition, formation of coagulation, which ultimately creates a life threatening condition for the patient. So, they needs to get dissociated, they needs to get breakdown to use, so anticoagulants are being used in that conditions. So, anticoagulants, they generally prevents clotting from formation of an or existing clot from an old or enlarging, but it also promotes not to having so much of clotting after a post operative procedure. Like if a person has surgery, so there need not to be so much of clotting at the same time of surgery. So, to eliminate that condition, anticoagulation agents are given to the patient. So, the drugs that inhibit thrombus formation and prevent coagulation or formation of new blood clots, they are called as anticoagulants or the anticoagulant agents, which inhibit either the action of coagulation factor, that is heparin, or interfere with the synthesis of coagulation factor, that is warfarin. These two drugs, these two medicine are generally being used to inhibit the action of coagulation factor and synthesis of coagulation factor. So, these two agents heparin and warfarin are generally used. First, that is heparin or unfractioned heparin is a heterogeneous mixture of sulfated mucopolysaccharides with molecular weight, that is 10,000 to 20,000 gram per mole. Its biological activity is dependent upon the endogenous anticoagulant antithrombin. So, the first agent, that is heparin, is the properties which are written that it has a molecular weight of 10,000 to 20,000 gram per mole. Its biological activity is depending upon the endogenous anticoagulant antithrombin, and it is a mixture of sulfated mucopolysaccharides, a heterogeneous mixture of sulfated mucopolysaccharides. So, the heparin is very useful in as a anticoagulant agent. Generally, we see the use of heparin or warfarin in the when there is a blood coagulation in patients. So, these are the naturally occurring agents. Heparin is a naturally occurring agent. So, this is safe for use in patients, and the shorter, it has a shorter chain, low molecular weight, fractions of heparin, enoxaparin, that is a fraction of heparin, enoxaparin, dalteparin and tinzaparin. These are the three fractions of heparin which are generally used to inhibit the activated factor 10, but it has less effect on the thrombin than the high molecular weight species. So, there are certain, as we have seen from the slide, that there are certain fractions of heparin also which are being used to inhibit the activated factors, that is the activated factor 10, and it has a less effect on thrombin than the high molecular weight species. So, as the slide suggests, that anticoagulants are having exactly the opposite effect of coagulants. So, this is the classification for anticoagulants. There are two types of anticoagulants we have seen, that is parenteral and oral. The parenteral has indirect thrombin inhibitors and direct thrombin inhibitors. The indirect thrombin inhibitors has heparin, that is low molecular weight heparins, fondaparinux and danaparide. So, these are the examples of indirect thrombin inhibitors. Next is direct thrombin inhibitors, that is lepirudin, bivalirudin and argatroban. These are the examples of direct thrombin inhibitors. Oral anticoagulants, the examples are, they are divided into certain derivatives on the basis of structures. So, coumarin derivative, bi-hydroxycoumarin, that is also called as dicumarol, warfarin sodium, acinocumarol, nicomalone and ethyl bismuth acetate. And indendione derivative, it has phenindione. Direct factor 10A inhibitor is rivaroxaban, and oral direct thrombin inhibitor is dabigatran etixylate. So, these are the examples. This is the classification for your anticoagulant that are divided into two types, that is parenteral and oral. The drugs which are used in parenteral and oral anticoagulants are, we are going to study the main of the which are given in our syllabus. So, anticoagulants, two types, like they are the medicines which are used in vitro, that is heparin, calcium complexing agent, that is sodium citrate, sodium oxalate and sodium edetate. On the rightmost table of the rightmost part of the table is having the amount and the concentration by which this is going to be used, and generally it is being used. And the last is, that is antiplatelet drug, which is very important, that is clopidogrel. It's a newer congener of triclopyridine, ability to inhibit the platelet dysfunction and therapeutic efficacy. So, these are the drugs which are generally used in vitro as a anticoagulant agents. So, first agent which we are going to study about, that is warfarin. Warfarin, synthesis of warfarin is a single step process. It has 4-hydroxycoumarin and benzoyl So, these two in presence of pyridine will give a structure of warfarin, they will give warfarin. So, warfarin is a drug which is used as anticoagulant, and it is made from these two starting material, that is 4-hydroxycoumarin and benzyl acetone in presence of an environment of pyridine, which gives warfarin. So, warfarin is used as anticoagulant for preventing and treatment of deep vein thrombosis and pulmonary embolism. What is pulmonary embolism here? Pulmonary embolism means when there is a coagulation of blood in lungs. To treat that, warfarin is generally used. So, in deep vein thrombosis and pulmonary embolism. Embolism can be of other types as well. So, what will be the mode of mechanism of action of warfarin? That is warfarin, or it is a vitamin K antagonist because it is anti coagulating factor. It produces effect on blood coagulation by interfering with the cyclic interconversion of vitamin K, vitamin K2,3 epoxide. So, these two, like vitamin K and vitamin K2,3 epoxide, these agents are getting in cyclic interconversions. So, they warfarin shows effect on blood coagulation by interfering the cyclic interconversion of vitamin K and vitamin K2,3 epoxide. Then vitamin K, it is a essential cofactor that necessary for the post translational carboxylation of the glutamic acid residues on the N terminal position of the specific clotting factor. So, there are certain terminals, there are basically two type of terminal, N terminal and C terminal positions in the clotting factors. So, the vitamin K is essential cofactor which is necessary for the post translational modification, that is carboxylation happens of the glutamic acid. Glutamic acid is a type of amino acid residue on the N terminal position of specific clotting factor, that is 2nd, 7th, 9th and 10th, and anticoagulant proteins like protein C. This gamma glutamyl carboxylation results in the new amino acid gamma carboxyglutamate, which through chelation of the calcium ions causes the proteins to undergo a conformational change, and this change in tertiary structure allows the 4 vitamin K, the various vitamins K which we have studies in the classification, the 4 vitamin K dependent clotting factor to become activated and bind with negatively charged phospholipid membrane during the clotting cascade activation. So, as we have seen that the warfarin, which is an antagonist of vitamin K, interferes with the activity of vitamin K and the clotting factors and produces its effects, shows its effects as anticoagulants. What will be the chemistry? As we have seen the structure here of warfarin. The chemistry says the coumarin derivatives are all water insoluble lactones. So, the SAR is based upon the substitution on lactone ring and also can exist in solution of two diastereomeric cyclic hemiketal conformers in addition to its open chain conformers. What happens is here is the coumarin derivatives are all water soluble lactones and the modifications are done on the lactone ring system. So, the solution of two diastereomeric cyclic hemiketal conformers in addition to its open chain conformers, because it has been suggested that vitamin K forms an active hemiketal in vivo. That means, inside the body it forms a hemiketal, that is active hemiketal form inside the body, and the cyclic hemiketal of the vitamin K antagonists such as warfarin also may be active conformers in vivo. And the clinical used preparation of warfarin, that is it is a racemic mixture, but the enantiomers are not equipotent, that is the S warfarin and R warfarin. So, the S warfarin is least 4 folds more potent than R warfarin. So, there is a very important role of enantiomers, the racemization, because it is showing that the S warfarin shows much more potent effect than R warfarin, and the difference in activities and metabolism of enantiomer in the is the key to understand several stereoselective drug interaction. In case of acinocumarol, the R isomer is responsible for activity. So, in case of warfarin, S warfarin is more potent than R warfarin, whereas in case of acinocumarol, the R isomer is more potent than S, or you can say simply the R isomer is responsible for its activity. So, this was the chemistry of warfarin. So, warfarin and other coumarin derivatives which undergoes extensive hepatic oxidative metabolism, they are catalyzed by isoenzymes to give 6 and 7 hydroxywarfarins as a major intermediates. Why? Because hydroxywarfarins will give much more better absorption in vivo and produce very good effects in comparison to the previous formed derivatives. So, this is the general structure, or you can say the ring system of coumarin, that is starting from the numbering 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 and 8. So, this is warfarin having a hydroxy group, this is dicumarol, in place of hydroxy group there is a ketone group. Next is 6 hydroxy warfarin, it has an hydroxy group in place of 6, and 7 hydroxy that has a hydroxy group at the 7th position in the ring system. So, it is very much so the modification by addition of hydroxy warfarins is the so the modifications which are done by addition of hydroxy groups are very good and gives potent activities. So, these are some agents also for coagulating agents and anticoagulating agent, these are the other agents. So, what I was telling in the beginning of this class, that we are going to see about the blood clotting factors. There are 13 blood clotting factors. First is fibrinogen, then prothrombin, then tissue thromboplastin, calcium, proacelerin labile factor, also called as the proacelerin labile factor, then proconvertin stable factor. Next is anti-hemophilic A factor and anti-hemophilic globulin. Next is anti-hemophilic B factor. Next, steward or Stewart-Prover factor. Next is plasma thromboplastin antecedent. Next is Hageman's factor and contact factor, and last is fibrin stabilizing factor. So, these are the factors which are responsible for blood clotting, and at the same time anticoagulants are those agents which opposes blood clotting, that means they opposes the clotting factors which are mentioned here and produces the anticoagulation. So, the general use will be various type of uses we can see for anticoagulation, that is in deep vein thrombosis, pulmonary embolism, myocardial infarction, unstable angina, rheumatic heart disease, that is atrial fibrillation also, in atrial fibrillation also. Next is cerebrovascular diseases, various surgeries, that is vascular surgeries, prosthetic heart valves if they are incorporation of prosthetic heart valves. Next, retinal thrombosis, extracorporeal circulation, hemodialysis and defibrillation syndrome. So, these are the various conditions where the use of anticoagulants we can see. These are the references you can follow. The chemistry part is taken from Foes, the synthesis part is taken from Synthesis of Essential Drugs and Berger Medicinal Chemistry. The pharmacology part is taken from Essential of Medicinal Ecology and Lippincott. Thank you for this lecture.